just to remind everybody that as well as being on a laptop, we have an app that actually runs on your mobile phone. And it doesn't matter whether it's Android or everybody can see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It doesn't matter whether you've got an Android or a smartphone by Apple, an iPhone. But everything that we do is contained there. The content is contained in the 5-Step Marketing Masterclass. That's where I put all the videos and any notes and downloads and links, etc. And the membership bit is the bottom left. That's where we can relate to one another. But the point about this is that very often I've got sometimes videos from other sources, but I've got content. And I shared the content from Sean, Dean Seddon last week, and I shared the audio. And at section 13 minutes in, he actually shares his one client profile, which was the document he referred to. At the 13-minute mark, he describes what that's about. And I thought that's where I'm going to kick off. Now, the beauty of that, of course, you don't need to be static. You can have that on your phone and use it as a podcast. So you want to make good use of your time, like I do in the shower or on my walk. I just listen to podcasts. And, you know, if that's important, you can squeeze it into a busy day. That's just the point I wanted to make. And the point he makes is, and here he is in LinkedIn, is who are we selling to? Who are you selling to? Who is your audience? And what he also covers in this document is you've got to really nail your audience, your ideal client, your target market. And I think with LinkedIn, like with any network, all LinkedIn is a virtual network. It's rather like the network meetings that you attend. It's just that it's on LinkedIn and it's not, you haven't got those visuals, but you've got to treat it like that. So it's no different than BNI, it's no different than For Networking, it's no different than Business Focus. We think about it like that. So who is it we're selling to? And if you think about LinkedIn, for a majority of people, they're doing what most people do at networking. They're just spamming people, they're blasting people, and we all receive it. But we're a bit more savvy than that. We want to think about who our ideal client is. And that could be into, and what is their pain? What are their pain points? What do we think their pain points are? Yesterday, I went for a haircut, and my usual hairdresser is a young man. His father's a verger at the cathedral. He's American by birth, quite a trendy young man. He's likable, but he hasn't got a clue about focusing on the client. Although he did change the music from heavy Led Zeppelin yesterday, because I was the only one in, to something a bit softer. But his first question, and it's the question he always asks me, right, what are we doing today? So I show him a photograph of how I've liked the haircut from last time. And then he asked the question he asked every time, what do we use, a 5 or a 6? I said, why are you asking me? I've got no idea what tools you use. Why would I know the difference between a 5, 6, a 2 or a 3? And by the way, he's referring to Clipper. So I don't know whether a 2 is shorter than a 6. I said, look, the last time we did it, we made sure we did it on the long version because you can always cut it again rather than the other way around. Well, apparently he used a 6. Now, why am I telling you this story? Because he'd done absolutely he'd made no notes. His memory wasn't that good. And a really good on the ball guy would have said, last time we came in, and he knows my name, last time we came in, Paul, I think we used number 6 and we would I know we were natural at the back, blah, 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 blah. And he would do that. Now, imagine, we took it in a bit of light-hearted. I told him to get to grips, start making notes. He said, blimey, if I took notes, he said, I've got so many clients. He said, you have so many more clients as well if you took notes and if you pay more attention. So, and sometimes he'll stop to change the music. Sometimes he'll wave at somebody out the window. In fact, the guy before, he was opening the door, he was chatting to somebody, and I thought, this is not client attention, but hey. The point I'm making here is he really he thinks he knows who he's selling to, but he doesn't know much about me, because he'll ask me a question, I'll answer it, and I can tell he's not listening. Big trait of hairdressers is just not listening. They appear to be listening, but they're not listening, because he then asked me the same question again about 3 minutes later. So I think that's what we need to, that's what I've learned from yesterday about who we're selling to. When we choose when we think we know the target market, we must not assume that is that they're in a position where they may be ready. We might know who the target audience is, but we don't know for certain. So the next point that Dean made was, where are the main pain points? What are the likely pain points of that audience? What are the things that the people are keeping them up at night? What are they stressing about? What are the typical points? And if you really know your market, you'll know that they could fall into 2 or 3 particular categories. And the other point that is as well to know is what is the potential outcome if they don't sort that out? So we look at this. People buy stuff to fix problems. That's generally what people do. And I want you to think about, and this is where the discussion will go, who are the people you're selling to, and what has been the impact of working with you? If you've got a client, and maybe Anne-Marie can kick off, if she's got a client that she's been working with, if she can think of somebody right now, what's been the impact of working with your business, with you, over the last 6 months, or the last 3 months, or the last project? What has been the impact for them of working with you and your business? And where are they today? In other words, where were they? I should have said, where were they when they first started? What were their issues? What were they concerned about? What were they wanting to achieve? I think we've said it on previous occasions. Sales are quite simple. It's not rocket science. On the left, you've got somebody and where they are now. On the right is where they'd like to be. They may know where they'd like to be. They may not know. They may be just frustrated that they're stuck where they are and not know that there is a brighter future, because all they can see is the wall in the middle. All they can see is the reasons they haven't done something. And to me, the line of questioning should to find out exactly where they are right now, or rather where they ought to be, where they'd like to be, where they are now, and what is it that's stopping them from doing what they really could do. Now, sometimes you'll see that more than they'll see it, because the barrier in the middle, and I'll refer back to the conversations I have with people's weight. And I'm talking about, it's not nothing more than an issue that somebody knows they need to lose weight from vanity or health reasons. The real question is, what is stopping them from taking a different course of action? What is the fear? What is in their minds? Because if you can find that out and show them how you can overcome that, you can take them from the left to the right, from now to a better future. So I'm going to stop that share, and that's how I'm going to kick off. I've been doing so much time on studying various LinkedIn issues. I don't pretend to be an expert at this, so there's a few things that I will cover today. But you guys, particular Marcus and Anne-Marie and various other people, will be having more success or more things. So I would like your input on this to get the discussion going. So coming back to this, Anne-Marie, you've recently been you've had clients, and you've successfully launched books, etc. How did that go? What's been the experience of people generally that work with you?
So the feedback is always very positive, which is great. It's very much about them achieving something they never thought they would achieve. And the block is not knowing how to start. And I'm going to...
Sorry about last night.
It was me. I had indigestion. I had to get up.
No, I was up and down because I was just so cold all night.
Put the duvet on tonight.
I have no idea who that is.
Not me.
We'll put the duvet on tonight. We'll do that
No,
later. Yeah? Well, it's all right. No, it's me. I got up because I
think
didn't
they need a- hope we don't get rude.
I need to be cold. Sorry.
Just I was kind of, I felt shivery and cold, but when I touched me, I felt really hot.
Zoisa, right. Oh, that's bad.
Sorry.
That's all right. That's all right.
You got onto the wrong channel.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking I couldn't recognise any voices there. Right.
But
beg
you
your pardon.
did that.
I can't beat that.
Sounds horrible, isn't it?
I hope you're okay, Zoisa. That sounded like you were poorly. Right.
No, I'm okay. I'm okay.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Hormonal.
Oh, okay. Yes. So I'm going to tell you about the lady that I'm working with at the minute, and her barrier is one, that she doesn't know where to start, and two, she doesn't have a computer. So this is going to be a very interesting experience. This lady is 80 years old. She knocked on the door last week because I've got a sign in my window, a business sign. She came around yesterday morning. She has got 2 manuscripts at least that are like this thick, because obviously they're all typed. I've got folders of poems and short stories. Her wish in her golden years is to prove to people, she's dyslexic, to prove to people that she can actually write and have these things in a book, because her parents and various people always told her she was thick and stupid. So she's come to me with all of this stuff, which is now currently on my kitchen table, and said, I don't know what to do, help. So this is going to be probably one of the most incredible projects I've ever worked on, but also the most challenging, because I have to do everything the long way round. So the difference to her is that she will go from having just these great big door wedges of paper to books with her stories in that she can then say, you know, this is what I've done, which goes deeper than that, because it enables her to validate the belief that she could do it, that people have tried to take away from her whole life. So if anyone's got any brilliant suggestions as to how I'm going to most efficiently work with someone that doesn't have a computer, then please just shout. But it's going to be interesting, because every time I want to do an invoice or anything, I'm going to have to walk around to her house and stick it through the door. But it's all good. She's 80 years old. She's fab.
Well, she walked round to your house, so that was a good bit of offline.
And bless her heart, yeah, I live at the top of a hill, and bless her, she carried all these folders up the hill, and she got to talk to, oh, she said, I'm ever so puffed, she said. and then she said, I have to ask, some of my stories, they might be a bit racy to be published. Honestly, this woman is incredible. She said, and I would like my pen name to be Wild Woman.
Wow. Wow.
So I'll keep you posted, because this is going to be an ongoing thing.
So if you're at the top of the hill, how does she know about you? Does she normally walk past there and see you?
She does a daily walk, which goes past my house, and she saw the sign in the window.
And what does the sign in the window say?
So I've got 2, which has basically got my logo, and it says, one of them says unlock the book within and has my website underneath, and the other one says your dream, your book, your way.
Right.
So just two, like, I got them done. It was an ego thing when I took over the office and said, hey, everyone in my house, this is my office space. It was an ego thing that said, because we're on an estate road, so people do walk past. So I was like, do you know what? This is my office. I'm going to stick a sign in the window. It's proper. It's not like a little bit of A4 taped to the window. It's all proper done and everything.
Would that lady, what was her name? Oh, no, you don't need to tell me a name. You can tell me her first name.
Sue.
Sue. So is Sue a typical client, apart from the fact that she's not computer savvy and she's a bit older?
Yeah, she is. The motivation, I would say, for everybody is always the same. It's to achieve something that they've always either wanted to achieve or been told they couldn't achieve.
So they want to make a statement about who they are inside to the world. It could be somebody that wants to just prove something to people, in her case, because people have put her down a lot. It could be that it's somebody that's about, that's in that somebody's told them there's a story inside. They've got an interesting life. I mean, Rod would be brilliant. It'd be, there'd be a series with Rod. But maybe they just want to tell their children or their grandchildren what their grandfather was like. Are they typical? They're typical type clients.
Yeah, there's that type of client, and then there's the business client, which is a different motivation. But
what's the business client motivation?
They are more the how-to people. So 12 steps to this and how to do the other, and things that go alongside, like, that they give away at conferences and that kind of stuff.
So producing ebooks or producing training, not so much training manuals, but insider tips.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
On this call, you've never mentioned that before, so that's interesting. Because what I want to do, because this is about LinkedIn, you found her by the classic ad in Windows.
Yes.
In other words, she stumbled across it on her way to wherever. With her bags of stuff. Sounds like a bag lady. So how do you do, what system and what method are you using to get in front of the specific audience that you've just described? And it probably would be more appropriate, tell me if you think I'm wrong, for the business side of that. Is that what you're going for on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I would say primarily it's a bit of both, but primarily. So as an example, this week, I've just finished a book, which is hopefully going to launch bizarrely on how to use LinkedIn by a LinkedIn profile expert. So I have all the insider knowledge. Obviously, I can't share that with you because the book isn't launched yet. But that is the kind of book that is really great for me to work on. So those are the type of people that I find in either networking or from LinkedIn. Most of the personal clients are from networking or referrals.
I think we sometimes forget, of course, that the people on LinkedIn, whilst wearing their business suit, are actually people with other lives. So they could be both. Okay, so what has been your? So there's the audience, and we know what. I mean, you said that the lady, people get a sense of achievement, but it's actually digging deeper into the word achievement. Is it a sense of pride? Is it a sense of fulfillment? Are you getting rid of frustration? What is it? What is achievement?
It's really, it's quite complex, but for everybody, it's a really deep emotional result. And that kind of sounds a bit weird, but I don't know whether Chris and maybe Zoe kind of see this as well. It's that sense of I did it. And for business clients, obviously it's I did it, i.e. I've proved my worth, I've proved that I can do this, I've proved I know my subject, and I've proved that you can trust me to guide your business if you want to do so. For personal clients, it's hugely emotional. There's a lady I'm working with who phoned me yesterday because the illustrations have been drafted for her book. And she phoned me, she said, I've just seen the draft illustrations. She said, and I'm almost in tears. She said, it's going to be hopeless when they're actually finished. It's about that dream, which is why I guess I use your dream, your book, your way. It's about that dream, whether it be to increase your business or just to, I used to read Enid Blyton as a child. I had that dream to write The Magic Faraway Tree. I always wanted to eat the little thingies that exploded in your mouth, the little cookies that obviously did. Yeah, Andy's nodding. Yeah. So for most people that come to me, it's not something they decided to do yesterday. It's something that they've thought about doing over a long period of time.
I'm quite interested in this emotional thing, because you say that people buy an emotion, and so you can touch on this and really map it out, and draw it out. It could be quite interesting. So how are you? So you've got two types of client, and I know that you post on a regular basis. What has been your strategy for posting, for producing content? Well, first of all, what has been your strategy to? How are you getting in front of the right audience? And to me, LinkedIn is no different than any other network. You either are going for potentially somebody that can buy. So from a business point of view, it could be that you've got a thing about tech companies or teachers or whatever. Or it could be that you want to target funeral directors, or it's people that are already in front of your target audience. Either way, you've got to know your target audience. So what's your strategy for getting in front of, you've mentioned your target audience. What's been your strategy in who you're connecting with? And then we'll talk about how you construct your content. So what's your strategy for getting in front and building these people around you that are either target clients or target referral partners, introduction partners?
I think there's a couple of things. The first one is I've just tried lots of different posts, and not in a really kind of formulaic way, but I've kept an eye on what's worked and what hasn't worked. And by and large, if I post something emotional or emotion related, it absolutely soars. If I post something that says, hey, this is how you write a book, nobody reads it. So from that kind of perspective, I know that I need to appeal to people's emotions, however that looks. That being said, it's incredibly difficult to craft content. The content just kind of happens, and when I think of it, then I'll post it. It's very hard to, I find, post or think about emotional content in advance. But the other thing that I do as well, obviously not very well with Ollie, bless him, but I try to work with people that are in my network as well, so that I'm not just taking, I'm giving. So whenever I go to either network meetings or I meet people on LinkedIn that have got something that can benefit me, even if it's not necessarily me directly, but I know it can benefit my network, I make a point of actively connecting with them so that I know that I can then bring them into my network. And from that, I've actually got quite a lot of people that I know I can ask to help with things, and I've given business to. So it's kind of like a two-pronged approach, really.
Okay, so you surround yourself with people that either can be useful in where you're going, and that you could potentially work with, or can be helpful to other people. I must admit, when I'm talking to anybody, as I dig deep, certain people crop up in my mind that I think, oh, you two would get benefit because I can see a synergy. Okay, I'm going to take some pressure off you there for a minute. Marcus, what's your strategy? In other words, are you, let's forget content for the minute, from an audience point of view, do you have a particular strategy for, do you know exactly who you want to be connecting with? And what are you doing to, in that area?
I wouldn't say I have a particular strategy, surprise, surprise, but I do connect with people who I think, who might be my market. And, you used to be able to do that. You used to be able to do that a lot easier than you can these days. About a year ago, your connections weren't limited who you could connect to on a daily basis. These days, it's not so easy to connect with people who you don't know. You can still do it, but you can't do it in the same numbers. So that strategy of connecting with people has changed somewhat for me because of that restriction. But as far as strategy for posts, I try and, I guess because I've got my background in teaching, I quite enjoy putting out posts that are quite informative. Obviously I'll I'm a photographer, so my main thing is to get the images out there. And for me, that's probably, it could be more important than the writing as well. So, so to recap, no strategy really, but I try and come across as being authentic and informed in what I do.
Okay, well, that surprises me. Interesting. You just mentioned about limits. Am I right in saying the limit is that you can only contact 100 strangers a week?
Yeah, I think it's something like that. I think if you're on premium, it could be a bit more, but I mean, I'm not even sure if you can do 100 a week.
Well, certainly 100 comes in. I didn't know whether it was 100 a week or 100 a month.
I think it's 20 a day or something, 10 or 20 a day, something like that.
Yeah.
Now, the question I've got to ask therefore is, why would you want to contact 20 a day?
Well, initially, when I first started LinkedIn, I would think, okay, look, there's a particular market I want to contact. So it might be sales and marketing coaches. So you could basically search within a certain area for people involved in that field, and invariably it'll be in the thousands of people, you know, that will come up. And then you just work through in a rather sort of laborious way, sending out a connection message to all those people. And then that would be a way, I guess you're mining in some ways, but it'd be a way of also accruing a database of connections who are involved in that market. You can't really do that anymore. You can't do that. Well, I don't do it anymore, but I don't think you can. I don't know, have you found that, Anne-Marie, that you can't do that?
Yeah, they're getting very clever, the people at LinkedIn. They don't want you mining information, so you have to be a lot more careful.
Yeah.
Usually when a social media platform does something, it's actually for a very good reason. I can't understand for the life of me why you would want to contact 100 or 20 a day, because that is what, well, 20 days, yeah, it's 100 a week. That'll be it. That's where the 100 comes in.
Yes.
Well, first of all, especially for your business, it might be different for other businesses, but for your business, could you handle conversations and develop meaningful relationships with 20 people a day if you got them?
No, I mean, but your posts will only be seen by a very small percentage, just like Facebook, of those people you connect with. So in theory, the more people you connect with, the more people see your posts.
Well, that we'll come on to that as what I understand. I'm going to come back to you then on Marcus. Rod's got a point, because I know Rod's got to get off.
It reminds me of a joke, theory and reality, but I can't tell you that joke because it's a bit too rude. It's Jethro. So the theory and reality is, I sit on the market, 2,000 people walk by me, but I only speak to 20. If I'm lucky, I speak to 25. I only want to speak to the people that engage with me. I'm just there. So I think, I don't know nothing about LinkedIn, by the way. But all I can say to you is that if you're there and people go by you, you know, this is what your mining's doing, and you're trying to attract a few people that may be interested in what you're doing. Maybe turn it the other way around. You know, maybe that'll work. I mean, for me, what works is just you know, just being there and engaging with people that look at me or say hello back, you know. So I don't see me being on the market any different than being on LinkedIn, by the way. If I thought about it, I could utilize everything I do on the market on LinkedIn or Facebook or anything like that. It's just that I'm more comfortable in real life.
I think that you just said something that is spot on. Mel, you had a point.
Yeah, I think in my business, you know, 20 a day, 100 a day, it's all about right place, right time. And I want to hit these people on that day that they've had a problem, because we're solving problems. And it's going to be a bit of a, you know, a shot in the dark, but I only want one result from those 20 or from those 100, but that might be the day that, you know, what I say on my emails, you know, 40% of people make the wrong hire. I want to find them on that day they've had that problem.
So if I can, obviously everybody's going to be different here. So contacting 20 people a day would be valuable to Mel, but really you're just trying to find the people who've got a problem right now. One of the videos I watched was talking about where LinkedIn's algorithms are going. And nowadays, it appears, and I've heard this from 2 or 3 people, that it's the most important part is dwell time. In other words, they're measuring the amount of time that somebody is looking at your post, looking at your video, reading that, staying with it and being engaged, and the conversation's going. So it's quality of conversation. And how many people have you got, Marcus, as contacts on LinkedIn, first contacts?
Yeah, 2,500 roughly.
2,500. Why on earth would you be wanting to increase that?
Well, let me say, these days, because it has changed, and maybe because I've learned more about the platform, I don't connect with very many people. I probably connect with maybe about 10 people a week at the most, and they're people that I know already. So, but the reason I started off accruing this database of names was because it affects your SSI, your social selling index. And the higher your social selling index, the more reach your post will get.
But I clearly don't understand LinkedIn. You see, to me, networking is about relationships, and surely, I've had 1,600 contacts since it first started, and I don't do any of what you're talking about. I'd sooner have 4 or 5 meaningful Zoom calls, if I can get that. I think I've got 4 this week, meaningful Zoom calls with people where I can get to know somebody. And I think the challenge, and I might be wrong, Marcus, is that there's a feeling that you're looking at the content side. You want to do with things that affect content. And by the way, there could be other things that affect content. There could be, you want people to sort of, it's the inbound stuff rather than the outbound stuff. Can you see what I'm trying to say? I'm not.
Yeah, Paul, I mean, we've all got, we've all got different strategies or whatever. I think what we've got to be careful of is not overcomplicating here, and also putting the cart before the horse. Or is it the way around? No, yeah, the cart before the horse.
Horse before the cart.
Yeah. I mean, look, first of all, with LinkedIn, you've got to make sure you've got a good profile. You've got to make sure that's really far more important than, well, not more important, but that's a very important thing to do. Make sure your profile is really looking good, and you've got headshots on there, you've got great features in there, you've got maybe 1 or 2 articles that people can refer to. Make sure you've got a call to action on there, make sure you're targeting the right. That's really very, very important. And people get focused on dwell time, for example. I mean, I have looked at a formula for dwell time, and I've never seen anything look so complicated in my life. It runs into pages of formula. It's really.
I don't think that. I don't know whether that's complicated at all. I think dwell time is where people find your content interesting, find you interesting, want to know more about you. And it's just how we get to that. And,
yes.
And as I say, I'm not a specialist at LinkedIn. All I've done is, in fact, I've tried to research this for some added value, and I've found it so involved, and I'll show you from the slides. In the end, I've given up, and I've thought, right, I'm just going to go about this the way I would go about anything. And to me, the first bit has been, why are we on LinkedIn? Why do we go to any networking meeting? We want to begin in a relationship with people that can either be clients, so that's a direct approach, and there's nothing wrong with that. And in fact, from last week's conversation, it's probably a little bit, we don't want to neglect that. We don't want to think it's all about content, waiting for people, come to me because I'm writing interesting content. It's about making contacts with people that you would find as potential clients. Or what I tend to do is find people that have got lots of contacts in my target market that I can work with. It's a bit like in B&I, it's that power team concept. So they're the two strategies I would use in any network. And that's what I would do with LinkedIn. And I know I need to do more on LinkedIn, but it all starts for anybody else that wants to do more on any networking. It's who is the audience? How am I going to get engagement with them? I can just send out an email, and then how am I going to build that relationship? And I'm probably not, it's not clearly not the case, but it for anybody that's concerned about 100 contacts, it could be that they're almost moving into the spam bit. In other words, they want that. It's a bit like the serial networker that's in every networking that's going on. And Rod and I know a few of those, but they've got no depth of relationship with anybody. In fact, they're just seen as that superficial person that just wants to know people on the surface. They're not having meaningful conversations like I had with Rob yesterday. And it's better to have quality rather than quantity. There's an interesting video I saw yesterday where it said, if you've got 50 real people that value your content, and you put content out and people have dwell time on that because they're already interested, they'll start to show it to more people if that's the core. But if you've collected 2,500 and they pick 50 of them to see how are they reacting, and they don't even know you, they don't even know why you're on, they're on because of this LinkedIn hack, they'll say, well, nobody's interested, so they'll show it to, they don't even show it to the people originally interested. Now, I don't know whether that's true or whatever. Can you see the concept of that? So yeah, totally. I think no matter what all these specialists say, I think we've got to say, who do we want to connect with and why? How are we going to do it? What's our process? And let's produce content that we think can be valuable to those people. And it's far better to have just 100 followers that are engaged with. I mean, 100 followers that you're engaged with, goodness me, you'd build some business, rather than trying to get to thousands that you couldn't cope with anyway. And most of them are nowhere near where you're prepared to drive to for a photograph. I'm just being the devil's advocate now, Marcus, you know that. Anne-Marie.
I just wanted to share one little thing from this book that I can't tell you about that's coming out this week. LinkedIn, the way that you get seen, and I think Marcus mentioned it, is to do with indexing. Everything you do on LinkedIn has an index value. I don't pretend to understand it. One of the biggest things, or the best ways to get indexed, is to get recommendations. If you have more than 10 recommendations on your profile, LinkedIn are quite happy and you will start to be seen by more people. So the point of that, I guess, is that you can get recommendations. You don't have to get recommendations from people that you've just worked with. If you've had a really positive one-to-one, for example, and they've given you something that's valuable, you can give them a recommendation and vice versa. It doesn't actually have to be a piece of work. So I guess with what Marcus is saying about having a larger number of connections, rightly or wrongly, you can get more people to write your recommendation, which will move you up the LinkedIn ladder. I'm not saying that's necessarily correct, because the recommendations might be, you might have paid them £5 and bought them a pint to write it, but that's the way it works in terms of indexing. So LinkedIn does have a numbers game element to it, as far as I understand.
But I think LinkedIn eventually, from what I can gather, LinkedIn they're looking for the authenticity. And I know from history, the social media platforms, there's always somebody that wants to game the system. They want to take on the algorithm and tweak it. I don't think that's very authentic personally. I think it doesn't sit comfortably with me on that. I'd sooner just have meaningful relationships with people, not trying to game a system. So it's like people are buying likes on Instagram, for instance, and there's no, you're on a network to build relationships, and you basically people are doing the opposite to that. And I think because we've got that influx of people on LinkedIn, There's always somebody that wants to game the system. I just don't agree with it. Ollie.
Yeah, it sounds quite, I didn't realize quite how complicated the LinkedIn kind of algorithms are. And it sounds very similar to like SEO kind of ones, you know, in that they have the bounce rate and things like that, where how sticky your content is, how long people spend reading it, and the search engines love that. And again, this kind of the recommendations is the same as getting links back to your site. And it does seem like, Paul, you're sort of saying it comes down to that, the content is the key thing, isn't it? Is having valuable content that people engage with. But I think the problem is, certainly for me and probably for a lot of us, is turning that content into sales. You know, how do you then get, you like Anne-Marie sort of said, you know, the great copy about emotions and things like that really engages with people. But how do you then get that into people then at the end being more curious about writing a book or that kind of thing? How do you kind of take it to the next step rather than just, I think that's what we're probably getting at, Paul, rather than being more about focusing on the numbers, but actually building that kind of relationship, maybe?
All sales are about getting in front of somebody, grabbing their attention, getting them to lean in, usually through curiosity or just lean in with a proposition, then having some sort of conversation to see where their individual case is, seeing what their challenges are, like I showed you in that diagram. In other words, where are they now? What is, you know, why are they what they found interesting? What has been the barrier? Because if they had no barrier, if they don't have a problem, you don't have a sale. And if they don't have something that's stopping them from solving their problem, then they solve the problem themselves. They don't need you. It's where you've got to find out what's stopping them from doing what they desire to do. And how can you help them get over that obstacle? That, to me, is the simplicity of it all. And I don't think there's a shortcut. That's why there's got to be a process. It's if you've got the audience, you've got them to lean in, you've started that engagement, then you go offline to organize a phone call or a Zoom call to get to know them more intimately. That has got to be the goal. And therefore, it's far better, I think, to be thinking, right, I want 3 Zoom calls this week with people that I find interesting, that I can relate to, because we share. I don't want to have 3 Zoom calls with accountants. I don't want to have 3 Zoom calls with lawyers. I'd sooner have Zoom calls with creative people that are interested in photography, people are interested in weight loss, people are interested in diabetes, or whatever my interest or my business is about. Chris, you had a point. I have got some slides, by the way, and I will make Marcus feel really good because I'm going to cover profiles in a minute.
This is an interesting subject, and I kind of agree with you, Paul, that what I'm looking for really traditionally is one-to-one connections with one person who I can understand, who I can flesh it out with, and who I can tease out of them where their pain is, so I can deal with it. And essentially, my operation is very much on that. Now, obviously, during this pandemic and with my new proposition, that doesn't entirely fit the brief, but it kind of still does. So I've, like Marcus, I've been adding people, but more organically. I like the interest. I have a quick look at their profile and think, oh, they're definitely in my wheelhouse, so I'll add them. But at the moment, I'm trying to understand how I get people to engage with workshops, so that I get them to engage with their pain with me online, which is much trickier than doing it face to face. And it's still an uphill learning curve, I think, for me.
Okay. I'm going to go back to the slides. Before I do, I would encourage you to go back onto the membership site, because not only is that audio, but what's in particular is, thank you, Rod. Good luck with today. There's a one client profile that Dean has shared, which if you go through it systematically, it can help you Who is your ideal client? What are the most valuable pain points? What are the consequences of those? Non-monetary consequences, emotional consequences, also the potentially the monetary ones. I don't think you have to fill all of these in, but it helps you sort of challenge your own thinking about your target market. Marcus shared something a few minutes ago, and he's spot on, which is the profile, because I've always thought if you grab somebody's attention and they come back and look at your profile, what will they see? Who do they see at networking events? How do they form an opinion of you? Your perception of who you are might be not the perception that other people see. And especially if you've not paid much attention to LinkedIn for a while, your old profile might be not relevant at all. I'll share mine in a minute, and mine needs some attention. But if I go back to this, we've done that, let's see. But there's a guy called Rob Lally, and I quite like him. He's quite matter of fact. He's UK. He's not flash or anything, and he approaches things in a very practical way. And this is basically what I've taken from him when he talks about profile. First of all, he claims you don't need a professional photographer. Well, not everybody can afford a professional photographer. I think you've got to be, I think the first thing is you've got to have a shot that is you being approachable. I think that is the key. And for me, I've always gone with the feeling that a smile breaks down barriers. So I'm really pleased with the photograph I've got because Marcus did it. And so that's the first thing. But prior to that, I've had selfies that are reasonably well lit. I think the second thing he mentions, and this is where I've played around with this and I'm clearly out of kilter, as you'll see in a minute, is your hook, if you like. He helps business owners predictably book calls with ideal clients and scale organically. It's a bit highfalutin that. I think, what value do we bring? You know, what is that end game that we offer? What would somebody get when they what brings it into that? Because if you look on the right, where people you'll see the short description and all about LinkedIn. You see that short description, so that needs to be got right. Number 3 is the banner itself, and he's been very clever. So maybe I need to look at the banner again, because he's used graphics in that again are selling points. In other words, book more calls, get more clients, help more people. I don't know how he's included that Facebook link, and I think that's distracting. I think that will take people off LinkedIn to an opposing social, so I wouldn't go along with that. But notice at the top, he says, grow a coaching business that fulfills you, even if you don't know where to start. To me, I don't think this is perfect because he's all over the place. Are we talking about coaching? Are coaching clients his main clientele? Because the other things don't say that really. And then the fourth bit that is quite key is the about me. And that he claims that the copy, it shouldn't be a resume, a CV of what you've done since you left school. It should be and it shouldn't be copy about you. It should be like a landing page. This is his argument. We can debate this. There's a copy about the issues that the people seeing this have. In other words, nobody's interested in Rob Lally. They're interested in how Rob Lally can solve their emotional and business issues. So it's copy about their issues with a call to action. And that call to action could be a link to another landing page. It could be a YouTube link. And what he basically says at the back, if none of that is of any interest, check out my recommendation section. And he encourages people to scroll down and see what other people are saying about me. Or you could say, don't take my word for this, just see what other people are saying. That's if you've got good recommendations. So that's what he was doing there. So just take that off for a minute. I'll do the stop share. And then what I'll do, if I may, is right. So I'm going to use mine, but I'm happy to use other people's as well. Share again. So so I don't know whether that banner tends to link me to Marketing Crew. And I just got, following on that what he just said is talks about sales pipeline, lead generation and marketing strategy. I've put hashtags there. I don't think they should be there at all. So I'm going to rework that. You see where the number of followers I've got. Don't need that. So if somebody was looking at this for the first time, this is what they would see. I don't know whether they would see that. This is what I see, but this is what I think they would see. So I do have featured posts. So if they're featured posts that I think have got either they're current or they've got good traction, I think that's the basic idea here. And you can add those there or you can update them. So if you went for there, I've only got a few. And periodically I look at this and think, are they as relevant to my target audience? Yesterday, I did a quick post. Actually, it was an article. Are you using QR codes in your marketing yet? So I'm not sure whether, I'm literally not sure whether I should have put a link to that article in a post. I probably will do that today so that more people see the post immediately, therefore will go to the article. I've also put a link to my website, so that was featured. So if somebody's looking there, they'll see that I do contribute. I suppose there's the activity, recent things I've been active about, and sometimes it's just been commenting on somebody else's post. The about, it's talking about me. I provide marketing clarity for anyone. I think I should turn that around, maybe, to be more about whoever's looking at this, my target audience. So I'm going to review that. Experience, background, BNI, general manager, Weller, licenses, volunteer experience. I'm not sure how relevant that is at this stage. Skills and endorsements. I think I've always found that quite interesting, but I don't know how I readily show that. I suppose that's what other people, I don't know whether that's still a feature or whether that was just something in the past and how other people have marked me for my particular skills. But I think I'd like to be able to move the recommendations up because I've never asked for a recommendation of anyone. It's a bit like not asking for a review. Perhaps I should have done. These have just been their own idea. So there's quite a few there. I think that, how I feel about testimonials, that's more important than I think anything. So I don't know whether that is, whether I know, having seen what I've seen, I know that is in need of some update because I too have got to decide who is my target audience, how am I going to engage with them? Because I think when you can get the target audience and what the challenges they generally are, which you can do from that one client profile, it's from there you can start to map out content. Stop the share. You can then start to map out content that matches how you're going to help those people. Number one. I think secondly is, from what I've seen, is the use of hashtags. Is anybody else using hashtags? What's your strategy for using hashtags, Marcus?
Well, first of all, I would definitely get one of your own hashtags. So mine would be Marcus Armour Photography. And that means if somebody wants to find all your posts, they can find it all in one place very easily.
We discussed that on a call, didn't we? And you can go retrospectively into your posts and add that hashtag. I've done that.
Oh, you can, yes.
And it's
Right.
brilliant. You press that and you can encourage people to press the hashtag, because then they can see any other content. It's like having your own web page within LinkedIn. So that's a good one.
Yes.
What
And
else?
also, you don't want to have too many hashtags on your post. I believe currently the current thinking is 4 or 5. Yeah, 4 or 5.
3 to
Yeah.
3 to 5. Yeah.
Well, I'm one of those being your own hashtag, of course. And and hashtagging, I mean, hashtagging, I don't know. I don't know if it makes much difference, but apparently, try and go for a big group, 2 or 3 big groups and 1 smaller group. And you can find out how many people are attached to that hashtag. So, for example, the ones that I do would be branding, hashtag branding photography, hashtag something to do with the post I'm putting out, hashtag Marcus Armour Photography.
I think it recommends that. I think I've seen recommendations to actually go, just as you would search keywords, search on LinkedIn for particular tags. And I think I've got the same information. Have 1 or 2 big groups, have 1 or 2 small, narrower niches, and a big group would be up to 1 million. Anything over 1 million is too big. Then go for something between 300,000 and 500,000, and then go for even a narrower niche, because it will put your post in front of those different audiences. So that's a new way of finding new people, if that's relevant.
But Paul, I would love this just to reinforce at this point yet again. It's owned by Microsoft, LinkedIn, and of course, so it's going to be quite complicated computer-wise. But don't get too involved in all of that. Just get a post on there. Get out posting on a regular basis. Connect with people who are of interest to you, and comment on other people's posts, and ask people to comment on your post. Don't over. I have to.
Well,
you have to be
you're right.
careful.
And in fact, you're talking about things that I've actually got down here as well,
Okay.
and that is right. But if you put a post up, you might as well add hashtags.
Yes.
You might as well at least understand hashtags, because the algorithm, as I understand it, will put not everybody. If you've got a broad hashtag of 500, it's not going to put them in front of 500,000, but it will put them in front of a few people. Whether they're rightful followers, we don't know. If you've got a virtual business, easy, but not easy for Mel if he really is just looking around the Bristol area. Mind you could be taking clients from anywhere, couldn't you, really?
Yes, and geographically is now not really a barrier.
That's right. Anne-Marie, you had a point about hashtags.
Not so much about hashtags. I just wanted to say a couple of things on the review of the profiles that you've just done that I've learned.
All right.
So I think the guy that you showed us said in his headline, "I help people to do whatever." Sorry, excuse me. The word help is apparently not a good thing to have in your headline. And the reason for that is there's somebody on LinkedIn, and I can't remember her name, it's Helen somebody or other, that does a free 5-day course. And, yeah, that's it. And then she basically gets you to post 4 times a day. And one of her big things is that you put in your headline, "I help people to do X." So if you have help in your headline anywhere, people will think that you have subscribed to her school of LinkedIn because she's that popular. And if you don't agree with her way, which obviously Andy just kind of went like that, i.e. spamming people 4 times a day, then they're immediately put off by your profile, because they'll be like, oh, they're going to spam me, so I don't want to know them. So that's one.
Admit, I wouldn't have connected the two. I don't even know who we're talking about. So, with the number of millions on LinkedIn.
If obviously, a couple of people know of her. If you know of her and you've done her course, it's a big thing. and you will see it. You can always, when you go through people's profiles, you can tell who's done her course. And I mean, fair play to her, she's made bucket loads of money, but unfortunately her premise is that you post 4 times a day, and not many of us really want to see content from people 4 times a day.
I mean, you're right. You're absolutely right. And again, most people haven't got time to post 4 times a month. But Marcus mentioned it, and this is what I've got. And these are the notes I've got, funnily enough, from a post last night from Dean. Some key content matters, but it's crucial to share quality content that offers its readers a new perspective and insight into your own knowledge, expertise, and observations, and helps them. Share consistently. And what he suggested is, if you were to do a post every day for the next 20 days, you would find out what your audience resonates with, like a test. Now, whether anybody's got the time to do 20 posts is another matter. Personally, I'm thinking Monday, Wednesday, Friday could be good. It could be that we do two a week, Tuesday, Thursday. But I think if we're going to get anything out of LinkedIn, I think we've got to be present on a consistent basis. I think from last week, we said after 72 hours, you're gone. So the consistency wasn't 4 times a day, wasn't even 4 times a week. It was being there at a certain time. I don't even know what the best time of the day is to post. I've heard that Sundays are a good time to post. Again, you've got to think, where is my audience? I'm going to keep turning up for that. The other thing he recommends is start or join a conversation. And I know you guys are particularly good. I know Marcus and Anne-Marie get really good traction because you have a knack of wording a post and it gets them involved. But it's joining conversations. And to me, it's, if you're spending any time on there, it's as much as taking an interest in people on your target list and sort of making it, you don't wade in, but you make a remark or whatever. And I think that is a skill in itself. So joining a conversation, sharing your viewpoints, asking questions. The other point he mentions, and I know some people do this, I've not tended to do this, is having an at mention. So putting the at sign and then person's name automatically shares it with that person. And then using relevant hashtags. And finally, he says, including a photo or video, media-rich posts that include GIFs, images, or videos can instantly bring your content to life and draw the reader in. I did a post. Let me come back to the how many posts are we going to do? Because time is a challenge. You guys have got less time than me. I don't. I don't need to be. I'm not full on because of my age and and the like. It's not as if I'm doing my business to pay the mortgage. So there's a big difference. But I think most of us, if we can find ways to do things easily, get more done in the time we've got. So I tell you, I listen to podcasts in the shower. And when I come out of the shower, those are streamed to my speakers. So while I'm preparing my breakfast or whatever, I'm listening to something. That's just me. I'm learning all the time. When I drive any distance, those podcasts will then appear. Sometimes they're books. So I've got, it's not all business. Yesterday I met Mark Stonham. He was coming to Wells, so he said, it would be wrong to come to Wells and not meet up, so we met up for a coffee. He was slightly late. I was stood in the marketplace, and I had this idea for some content about QR codes, mainly because I got a Sunday paper, and the magazine was full of QR codes. The Waitrose magazine is full of QR. I'm suddenly seeing QR codes everywhere. And given that I'd produced a QR code on my card. I thought I need to write about this. What I did is, and I've got a couple of apps on here. One is Just Press Record. That's that red one, which I've been using. But I thought I'd try a new one called Otter.
Oh, yes.
Otter.io. And that is very good. So I pressed the button and I literally just started to say what I wanted to say about QR codes. In the middle of this, somebody passed by that I know, said hello, and he came over. I told him what I was doing. Fortunately, it stopped that. I managed to stop that, pause it. Then I carried on, and he completed it. I did slip it in my pocket and at one stage, and it seemed to have recorded something else. But nevertheless, I got an article. I transcribed that over onto my edit. I edited it a little bit. It was remarkably accurate. I'd already taken some screenshots of things in the magazine, etc. And that's what I posted yesterday. So it was done remarkably quickly and easily using technology. And I think that given the constraints each of us have got time, maybe we could use technology like that. Does anybody else use any technology to help the process?
No.
I'm going to do that vice card thing so that when I go to exhibitions, I can just do the tap and give them all my information.
Well,
but that's the only technology I think I'm planning on doing.
Well, in my article, I say, why would you want to pay £40 for a vice card that you may and may not lose when you can download a QR code, like the back of my card that I used at the meeting? There's got the QR code. You just say, just scan that. You've got my details. You could even have a picture of you or whatever with that code on your badge and say, if you like my contact details, just scan that, my chest.
Do you know, it may sound stupid. I'm not normally somebody who has any vanity about technology or any real draw to it. I obviously, most of the thing I want is put my mitts on people. So, but I quite like that because it's just natty. I think when I start doing exhibitions next week or the week after, it'll be interesting to have something that nobody else has got. I think I'll enjoy that.
I think in fairness, the other person has got to get the camera out, whereas you with the card, you can just tap their phone. But either way, you're using technology to do that. Whether they do anything with it is another matter. So, Ollie, you're fairly new to LinkedIn. Are you? Is it something that you feel you ought to do more of? I mean, have you started to approach it?
Yeah, I made a really bad error on it to start with, in that I'd set it up years and years and years ago and realised I had an email address attached to it from my school days, onefunkydj@hotmail.com, which thankfully my brother pointed out when he was on there a month or two ago, and so I quickly changed that. But yeah, I mean, I'm intrigued about it because a bit like Marcus, you sort of said, I went on LinkedIn, I type in Glastonbury, and then all of the local business owners and things like that, they're in your hands as such. So it's then obviously now trying to, after this conversation today, making it in a nice, rather than just clicking connect, and doing it in a more gradual kind of process of kind of connecting maybe one or two a week, and then properly building up a relationship with them and communicating with them. And is that still a kind of a good way of doing it, or kind of would you advise against that?
I would have thought so. A bit like you, I've been on LinkedIn since it started. I've actually got my name. It was very early adopter in my URL. How am I going to use it? Well, I think what would make sense is that I start to do searches. I've not used my database of previous members. I almost feel hesitant about reaching out to people I haven't spoken to in 3, 4, 5 years. I don't know whether that's the right thing. I shouldn't do that Because funny enough, an original member of my BNI chapter in Taunton contacted me through LinkedIn, made a big mistake. He actually pitched me and said, because of my interest in so-and-so, I think you'd like this. He can't know I'd like this. So I got on the phone to him and he was open enough to say, I'm not sure I'm doing this right. And I gave him a few pointers to the way I'd received it. And we've rekindled we caught up on a few things, and I managed to tell him about Marketing Crew. He's going to come on, or he says he's going to come on a call. So I think one of the things I might do is to actually take some time out to look at people I know in various areas where I had chapters. So do a search for an area, because then I'd see people who are still active on LinkedIn, and they could be a good people to invite along to this. Plus the fact it's a lot easier, I think, to connect with people on LinkedIn than maybe with an email, which might or may not get missed. After I was a sub on the Business Focus last week. And I always pull the chat off, and I take sometimes an hour to pull out all the contact details of people I don't have a connection with, and I'll ping them an email. But what I found myself doing, where the LinkedIn contact was there, it's far easier to just click the link and send them a message or ask for a connection, because that's well within the 100, the 20 of the day. And out of that, I've actually got quite remarkably good results, because I've ended up with 4, I think it's about 4. I had one at 12 yesterday. I've got another one at 12. I've got 2 others this week of people I've met. So in other words, using the formula, you've met somebody, you either had a conversation or you wanted a conversation. I'm sorry we didn't get you a chance. And you also, by going on LinkedIn, you can take some time out to take a look. So I think slow and steady. So whether that's geography, whether that is through searching through business category, I think either of those. In fact, we haven't talked about search, but that's the way I think I'm going to go for definite. Andy, do you use LinkedIn much?
I'm not as much as I should, and I think, like yourself, Paul, I think I'm of a slow and steady mind with actually want to, the people I engage with and see posted their comment that I then commented. I take the time to actually get to know them a bit better. So what I don't want is hundreds of thousands of people that are connections that I don't really have anything in common with. I'd rather have, like I say, 3, 5, 10,000 people that, we have something in common. We have similar causes, etc. And things that then when I do put things on there, they're going to resonate with them, as opposed to just get 50,000 people on there and it just becomes a tannoy, but in the written form.
It's like a vanity matrix.
Yeah. And anybody that knows me is vanity. Yeah, I do it for the real reasons, not because it ticks up a vanity box. Don't play that game.
Marcus, are you still? I mean, would you do things differently, or? I mean, actually, despite what you said originally about, getting lots of people to see your content, you actually are following what we're just talking about now. You're having meaningful conversations with a relatively few people.
Yeah, I do both, Paul. Yeah, definitely. It's amazing, isn't it, LinkedIn, really? I mean, I guess because it's so limited, what we got, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, there's about 5 or 6 main players that you can you can use for content marketing. So we are limited, but LinkedIn is very deep. There's a lot going on there, and you can use it in many different ways, definitely. But yes, I have an approach where I get content and lots of people see it, people commenting on it. I also will take people out of LinkedIn and meet them for coffee and have messaging with people a lot, really long messages. So you can use it in different ways, if that makes more sense. Yeah.
I personally think this is this is the way I've used it. I think there's certain things I can tweak. As far as I'm concerned, I'm definitely going to tweak my profile, and I'm going to spend time on the search. Still will do content, but the search, reaching out to people I haven't spoken to in a while. And really, I am going to go through at least some of this one client profile to think, who is it that can most likely use the services and the experience I have? And you guys helped me last week with, what you got from being on Marketing Crew. And if I can just get that back. Don't know if it's still on. In fact, again, if I just share this. You're asked to give us three, just choose three, and I don't know if they were at the top, but 82% of people felt that marketing know-how, which I'm really pleased with that, networking skills, and valuable connections. I didn't expect that at all, but from 11 people, 73% got valuable connections. Now, is that valuable connections within the group or connections outside of the group?
For me, it's within the group.
Right. Anybody else put that down?
It's because it was like I said, sort of at the very beginning. I like to surround myself with people that I know can help if I need them to, but likewise I can help them. So even if we don't actually have any business changing hands, I know, for example, that I could always say to Mel, I need help with this. Can you advise, blah, 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 blah. And likewise, people can come to me. So I kind of feel that within this group, I feel like we've got a group of people that we can just bounce off if we need to.
I think any group where you're meeting people on a weekly basis, I'm thinking about BNI, and this group is, you get to be able to, because of that repetition, you are getting to trust people because of the way they behave, the way they contribute. You're getting to know. Obviously, the advantage of one-to-ones is you get a little bit deeper into that. Maybe what I'd like to explore is building those connections outside of the group and connecting with people. I mean, for instance, with Marcus, just by coincidence, when he came to do my photography, I've introduced him to Michael Collins, who is some journalist of note. They hit it off brilliantly. Marcus generously has offered to photograph he and some colleagues, because they've formed this band. It's the Banksy of the music industry, because nobody's heard them play, and I don't think they want to do any live gigs. But Michael has got an article lined up in Arena Om, and they were so impressed with although they normally use their own photographers, they were so impressed with Marcus's photography that they're using one of his photographs for a credit. So Marcus is going to be ending up with a credit in Arena Home, which I'm sure you'll get mileage out of. But interestingly enough, Michael is a good friend of the housekeeper for Brian Ferry, the musician. And Michael had shown, Michael's friend Michael had shown Brian Ferry the photography, and he was blown away. And bearing in mind, he spends good money on print if he's on his own image. So I'm expecting the next thing is, especially when Brian Ferry realizes that you're a bass session musician, that you'll develop that further. So I think it might be, would it be a good idea to explore those third-party referrals, those, building your network by connections, because that's what we did all the time at BNI. I think it'd be a shame not to do that over the next couple of weeks. Marcus?
I tell you what we should do, Paul, is we should arrange a meetup before Christmas
Well, I promised to do
We can all
that.
have a drink and we can have a chat about these third section. You know, it's meeting face to face, isn't it? Which is that's
Yeah.
the best way of networking, isn't it?
Well, that's what we're going to do next week, isn't it?
Yeah,
We've got-
Ben and I.
We've got some good thoughts going.
We have
Right
indeed.
now, all right. So on a stroll poll of depleted numbers this week, and I should have reminded you that Nick's on holiday. Ewan and Kelly are going through a very difficult, not a personal time for them, but they're dealing with aging parents, one of which has got terminal cancer, and they're having to ferry them to hospital and what have you at this time. So they really are, you know, I've spoken to them and they're really apologetic. They will be back at some time. So I keep promising to do this. When's a good day and when's a good part of the day for people to meet up? And everybody won't be able to do that, but you won't please everybody. But
Midweek, Wednesday.
you say
Wednesday,
Wednesday,
yeah.
is Wednesday a good day?
Yeah.
And
Sort of mid-morning coffee.
Isn't Rod on the market on a Wednesday?
he is, and I know Chris and Nick have been down, and I think Marcus has been down.
We should meet up in the evening. We should meet up in the evening after work because you know, if I hang a Christmas drinks we're talking about.
Oh, we'll definitely do a Christmas party if you like, or whatever, or Christmas.
Yeah.
I think it's a shame if we don't do something sooner rather than later, though. I
Right.
like the idea of Christmas drinks, but can we do something before that?
Yeah, what I'm thinking about is why. At least I'll kick something off. I'll get a date in October on a Wednesday,
Where
right?
though?
In Wells.
Wells.
Wells,
What?
Where's Wells? Do you need a passport to go there?
Somerset, Wells, Somerset. People,
Oh
whatever,
my God.
Wales.
Well.
Right, and then so that we can do an away day. Somebody else, I know Chris was thinking about it. Maybe Marcus can arrange it. Arrange somebody maybe on the Downs in Bristol or by the harbour, by the M Shed or whatever. I went over to Bristol on Friday to get myself to the Apple store very early. I was very focused on that. Managed to get myself a new camera, the new phone. I traded in.
Oh no.
You're lucky. I went to Old Trafford.
Did you? Oh, goodness me. Don't mention that. That was appalling. Anyway, so if I pick a date in October, we'll do that.
Yes.
We can grab a coffee. We can meet Rod. We can have it then a net walk or whatever. I can do my tours and show you. You can bring cameras and we can film and interview each other. That would be great. That would be great. And then Marcus can be responsible for doing the Christmas do, and then somebody else can do something in between.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Good.
So
Okay.
October, 3 events. Not in
Okay.
October. One in October, one in November, and Christmas in December. Right. If I can go around, I've never seen so many small number of people on this. Anything you've got from today, Mel? Any?
Yeah, I mean, there's always divided opinions on LinkedIn, and and it can be good, it can be bad. I mean, I do a post once a week. I'm totted them up. I've done 26 in the last 6 months, and I try and be topical, or I try and sort of, once I've been topical, sort of top and tail it by doing, say, what I'm looking for, and I need to speak to these people. So I'm quite constant on there, at least one a week.
I connected somebody with a solicitor, litigation solicitor, and that I've known for a number of years, and he was saying the biggest challenge he's got in their industry is lawyers. That he needs more people. I said, well, I know somebody in recruitment, but he's in creative recruitment. Am I right on that? You wouldn't do anything outside of that? Well,
creative digital sales. I wouldn't say that we wouldn't find a solicitor or a lawyer, because I don't know enough about it.
Yeah. Marcus, and I think the beauty of today has been that, we've got all different opinions, and as long as we're getting what we want, and to me, as long as we're getting those, extending the context and getting in front of people and talking to them, that to me is what I've got from today. What about you?
That's exactly what I was going to say, Paul. Thanks.
Anne-Marie, it's lovely to see your cat. I think you ought to connect. Well, it'd be great to connect with cat lovers.
I I was gonna have a moan, but he's gone because Chris's cat is way more friendly than this one. So I was gonna have a bit of a moan, but he's gone, so I can't.
Yeah, even more when he got fish and chips on your lap in his house. Yeah.
Is that what it is?
I think having the well, I love the way you were talking to him or her or whoever it was, him.
Yeah.
So Anne-Marie, anything from today?
Yeah, it's always useful to hear everybody else's sort of thoughts and ideas and how they use things. One thing I just want to throw out there that I noticed today is obviously when people figure out how to use any platform, lots of people then start doing it. And one of the things that I've noticed a lot of people doing now is they make a statement or a question and then they leave a couple of lines. So you have to click see more. And that's one of the tactics that people are telling you to do. Personally, I am fed up of going, oh, for God's sake, I've got to click see more. So I tend to be scrolling past. So I guess my point is I think we need to still shake it up rather than just listening to what these people are saying, oh, you know, ask a question, leave a couple of lines and everyone's going to click see more. Actually, for me, I'm not, because I'm like, seriously, I can't be doing with that anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm scrolling on.
I think if you see something, the bit above the see more bit is your headline or your email, header. It's your header on a web page. That's got to have impact. It's got to get you to stop you. Together with the photograph or the video, to me, it's fairly obvious. If that then gets you to see more, then that's fine. But I think you've got to stop them with that line. See more won't stop people, I don't think. No. It's the first bit. Ollie.
Yeah, I think for me, again, it's that I just need to kind of do it a bit more consistency with it. And I think I need to look at my profile because it's been a while since I've looked at that and just maybe make sure that I think is the first step before I try and do too much more, is just to make sure that that foundation kind of works and looks good. So yeah, I think that's definitely been a takeaway for me to study.
How do you want people to see you when they look? You know, I sometimes say 90 odd people have seen you this week. Come and go on your premium again. And I'm thinking, well, what will they see? So I've got to do that. Andy.
Bit like Ollie, actually. I think I just need to consistently be on there. So I've tasked myself now to every day give half hour to just have a look through my feed, contact on anything I think is relevant. You know, just add some comments, and it's funny how, you know, all of a sudden you get some connections from people that you weren't necessarily looking to reach out to them directly, but you know, if they find context in how you then carry on the conversation on somebody else's post, and that's the way to be. And I just need to, you know, probably get a similar thing of being consistent of posting, even if it's once a week, just consistently doing it. Yeah. So
yeah, I think it's allocating a time. I mean, people have got the time to go on to their online network each week, their BNI meeting next week. I think if we look at LinkedIn as being such a network and treat it in the same way, I think somehow, whatever way we do it, we'll make more contacts.
Yeah, I'll just focus in think of it as a separate marketing channel. You know?
Yeah.
So maybe the website's one, face-to-face networking is another, LinkedIn's a third one. So give it the time it's due. Yeah.
And how you do it at a normal meeting is just how to do it, and how you come across with authenticity. Great. So next week, it's decided I'm going to explore specific referrals, and we're going to start reaching out and helping you build that network and see if we can start getting some referrals. And one of the ways I'd start, I mean, one of the things I've always found with LinkedIn, even when even in my BNI days, is very often you're with a BNI environment. Your one-to-one may discover who else you both know, but you're guessing, you're trying to educate people on who might be a good referral, and you want referrals off them. If you're on LinkedIn, you can scroll through their connections and you can spot who you want an introduction to. And maybe that could be one of the exercises we do in terms of the referral. I'm going to share with everybody some other videos that I've been looking at, that if anybody wants to look at those from a LinkedIn, YouTube point of view. And otherwise, I wish you a very good week. And apparently it's going to be really hot tomorrow again. And I will give you a specific date, and hopefully not only people are here, but other people can make it. And it'll be on a Wednesday lunchtime. And I'll challenge somebody for November and December. All right. See you then. All the best.
Good day, everyone. Cheers. Bye.